I've always felt like I have to pick one or the other. Like, am I this like girly girl that likes magic and butterflies and pretty things and pink? Or am I this ambitious, driven, masculine energy, finance, weightlifting, all like technology, like all that stuff? I was like, no, I'm both. Hi, my name is Meg Anderson. I am the founder and owner of Pink and Powerful, which is a women's wellness and empowerment community and now physical studio space. Our space is in the Strip District at 1601 Penn Ave. I've been doing this full time since September 2025, so I don't know, 6 months now maybe. Before that, I have a background in finance, so I studied that at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh originally. I have always been a huge lover of everything about Pittsburgh, and I left for a couple years after college working in finance, and that is where I really fell in love with fitness, with community building. I found the post-grad transition to be incredibly isolating and difficult, and so out of a need of my own community and a space where I felt like I could be heard and understood, I decided to create my own. So I started hosting events in New York in Central Park. We'd go for walks. It was super fun. I got my personal training cert and then got back to Pittsburgh and my heart just called me to jump all in, do it all completely. So that's what I've been doing now. And I love it. It's like my favorite thing. I love the color pink, obviously. And I love bringing people together. I love fitness. I love mindfulness and meditation. That's a big part of what I do. And I personally love literally all forms of movement. I run, I do CrossFit, I lift, I do yoga, Pilates, like all of it. And just, yeah, I love being able to do what I love full time, finally. On a scale of 1 to 10, how authentically are you living right now, both online and offline? I'd say I'm at a 9, which is, it's funny, this was one of my big themes coming into this year was to try to do this as much as I could. And for a long time, this was like my biggest struggle. I always felt like there's many facets to who I am, and I struggled a lot with knowing where I belonged. I think the world really wants people to fit in a box, and I never felt like I did. Like even as a kid, I loved school. I loved every single subject in school, and I also loved physical activity. I loved like robotics and band and mathletes and science olympiad. I also loved the color pink, and I used to hide that because I was a lot of times in these very male dominated spaces. Same thing happened when I went to college and I studied finance and got really into weightlifting, or it was like, oh, I'm this girl, I should probably not have long hot pink nails and pink or no one's going to take me seriously. And then when I was in New York working in that role, I just felt so unlike myself that one day I just decided, like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to be myself. And if people have a problem with it, then that's fine. And honestly, people, for the most part, didn't. I think it was a lot in my head. And so since then, I've just been more and more unapologetically trying to be myself. And, like, the career thing was the biggest block for me. But now that I'm doing what I love, I feel like I'm literally creating a space where people are meant to show up as themselves. So I feel like I'm living very authentically, but I'd say not a 10 because I know there's things that I'm still holding back on. There's certain things I'm very interested in and passionate about that I haven't quite felt ready maybe to share yet, either with my business or even with people in my life, like things that I think about a lot. And I think that's the next step for me is feeling like, I don't know why I'm in my head about those things, but I know there's still something to bring out. You quit your finance job in September to go all in on your brand. What was that leap like for you? Oh my gosh, it was so hard. That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I think it's one of those funny things where you hear stories, or I would even play in my head all the time, both at the first job in New York and then while I was in this job briefly, of like thinking about, oh, the day I'll quit my job, like I'm gonna walk in and I'm gonna quit and it's gonna be the best thing ever. And that sounds so fun. And first of all, the lead up to it, obviously if you're wanting to quit your job, it's not a good situation. Like you don't quit your job because you love it. And so it's actually a really sad story. Like it's more one of, wow, like it would have been really nice if I had felt like I loved what I was doing and that I felt like the corporate world was one where people like me belong, but it's really not. I never felt like I belonged in those spaces at all for many reasons. I'm very creative. I like to speak my mind. I do like to present myself this way, and like I'm very, very into wellness and mindfulness. And those are all things that like in corporate America don't really align. So the lead up to it was kind of this realization of like continuing to try to force myself to fit in a space that's not really built for me. is probably not going to ever work. But that was really hard for a lot of other people in my life to understand, because like a lot of my peers, my parents, former, mentors of mine, like maybe they felt like they had a lot of success in spaces like that. So it made no sense to other people why I would walk away from like a really good opportunity. But then there was a day where I like I felt it in my chest, like if I don't leave, then like I'm just gonna like break down, like have a mental breakdown, and like then what? Maybe I'll get fired. So I should probably just quit. And so it was really hard. And then like the actual day that I did it, it was, I don't know, it's not a simple thing. I don't know what I expected, but you don't just like walk in and say I quit and leave. Like it took hours and a lot of conversations, and they wanted me to stay. Like it was very difficult. But then once it was done, I was like really feeling really good for like a day. And then all of it hit me again of like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? This is my entire career on the line. I need to figure this out. So much uncertainty, so little path is laid out for people when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I still didn't even know what I wanted Pink and Powerful to be. I didn't have a physical space. I didn't know exactly what was going to work. So it was months of, I work still every day, but now I have a little more chill work. That was like trying everything at 1,000,000 miles an hour, 24/7. And maybe that's not how you're supposed to do it, but I felt this pressure, like financially and career or professionally, to make something work as fast as I could. And so it was really hard, but it was very worth it, because now I've kind of come out on the other side of that, and I'm like very confident that that was the right decision. And I'm so proud of that version of me who was like petrified but did it anyway. So yeah, they're good questions. Okay, you started your career working in finance in New York City. What made you realize that path wasn't what you wanted long term? So actually, literally the first day that I went to my job, I came home from work and I shut the door to my tiny apartment and I started crying. And it wasn't really because I had a horrible day or I thought, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. It's actually because it was this realization that hit me that I had spent like basically my whole life kind of working towards this point. All the hours I spent studying in high school and getting into a good college and working my butt off to network into this company that was very hard to get into, doing a good job at the internship, getting the offer, graduating. Then I got there and I realized like I never had paused to even think if I wanted that. Like I thought that that was what I was supposed to do, and on paper I seemed like such a successful person, and I always got compliments from everyone all the time on getting this job and going to New York. And I was like, okay, then I guess that's what you're supposed to do. So it was literally the instant I got there was when I realized, well, maybe this isn't what I want, and that terrified me. So it wasn't immediate that I knew it for sure wasn't what I wanted, but it was immediate that I realized I hadn't even thought about it. I just did the things that you're supposed to do and checked all the boxes. But it took probably close to the full 2 years I was there to become very confident that like this definitely isn't the place for me. And even coming back to Pittsburgh, I had hope that maybe trying corporate like doing the financing again, that maybe the second time around being home, maybe that would help. But I still kind of in my gut, I knew for a while that like this probably isn't going to work. But it's really hard because you want it to. It reminds me a lot of if you're like in a relationship that is past its due date, but you don't want to accept that, and you obviously aren't going to give up the first time something goes wrong. So for me, I felt like there was a lot of time where I had these realizations of like, wow, this doesn't sit right with me, how people handle these things. I hate that people comment all the time on my habits. Like I said, I'm really into wellness. I don't drink. I don't like to like stay up late, party. I don't do any of those things. Very uncommon in New York finance. And I used to, and it just wasn't good for me. And so I stopped, and like that just didn't align with what anyone else around me was doing. So it was very isolating. And for a while I blamed myself. I was like, I'm just weird, and why can't I be more chill? Like maybe I should drink again. Maybe I should try this lifestyle. And then finally I realized, well, maybe I'm in the wrong place. And so I think that was sort of a turning point. I don't know exactly when it was, but I found some people that were more like me, and I was like, oh, like found some entrepreneurs. I found some people that, like one of my best friends in New York, she had a very similar lifestyle to mine, and she went through the same struggles. So that really helped. So it was almost like this mirror of like, okay, it's not just me. So yeah. And then once I quit the job, it was like this feeling of like, wow, I that was definitely not where I belong. So yeah, it was a long-winded thing, but oh, I love talking about this. Talk to me about the evolution of Pink and Powerful. How did it start? Where is it now, and where is it going? So I think I mentioned this in my intro, but I started it in November of 2024. So that was when I was still in New York. And I actually got a little bit of inspo from a thing I had done before when I was at Pitt in college. I founded a student organization called Empower. And I didn't want to use the same name, but I liked the idea of almost like a student org, but for post grad life. So I started by just starting an Instagram page. I got the name Pink and Powerful. I was on the Stairmaster at 5:45 a.m. and I looked down and I had just like lifted heavy weights or was about to, and was wearing all pink. I had my nails done, probably like this. And I loved this concept of, wow, like I've always felt like I have to pick one or the other. Like, am I this like girly girl that likes magic and butterflies and pretty things and pink? Or am I this like more ambitious driven, like more like masculine energy, like finance, weightlifting, like all like technology, like all that stuff? I was like, no, I'm both. And that's okay. And so that's sort of where Pink and Powerful came to be. I like picked the colors and the font that I use today on that day. I did all of it that day, launched it, started with just posting some content here and there. I had no idea what I was doing. I have no background in marketing. I had never touched Canva in my life. So I taught myself how to use Canva, started posting on Instagram, and then hosted a couple events in New York before I ended up coming back to Pittsburgh. And things really took off once I got back here. I think one, I'm from here, so I have a much bigger network here. I know how the city works. I have way more connections. It's a lot easier to host events when you know a lot of people already to come to your event. It's hard when you're new to a city. And I also think Pittsburgh is a beautiful place to build. There are so many, the doors open so easily here. People are so open to helping and collaborating. And that's not to say that New Yorkers aren't that way. New York is a great place to build, maybe in different ways, but given the thing that I want to create, and the position I'm in my life and my financial situation, like say you want to rent a venue to host an event in New York City, the cost of that versus here is, I mean, you can find places for free here. That doesn't happen there. So things picked up a lot more quickly. And I actually, for a while, my goal was to create more of like a coaching business. So I started with personal training. I thought maybe it would be one-on-one training. I realized very quickly that's harder to scale than group stuff. Started doing group coaching programs. I have run a couple of those. But my heart is just really in this in-person community stuff. And I realized the events were doing better and better, but you can't host like 20 events a month. That's crazy. And so it was sort of around the time I realized that when the opportunity came along with Aruba Island Bowls Cafe in the Strip, to open my own space. And it just seemed so perfect because a lot of my events are centered around, it is usually a workout or fitness aspect, not always, but typically, and then also a social aspect. And so to have a smoothie shop like connected to, or almost like basically right next to the workout space, was like, this is perfect. So that all happened the past couple of months. It's been a crazy ride. I have 6 instructors now working for me, and classes almost every day of the week, and themes, and we do all kinds of stuff. Yoga, Pilates, stuff that no one's ever heard of that our instructors have created their own. A lot of dance elements in our classes, which is cool. Not something I really did intentionally, and then I realized a lot of the instructors, like one of our yoga styles, it's called Booty Yoga, BUTI yoga, and it's like very dance oriented, and like I've been loving kind of getting into that side of things. And like I never danced growing up, but I always wanted to. So anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, but where's it going next? I think it's going, my goal for Pink and Powerful is to expand it far beyond just being like a fitness studio. I think fitness is one of many elements of it, but I would really love to do more like community panel speaker type events. I did one a couple weeks ago and it went really well on different topics that people are interested in. I love the idea of continuing to collaborate with other small businesses. I bring in a lot of local businesses and vendors and stuff, and I just love that collaboration. Where it'll go one day, I'm someone who I used to always have such a strict plan for my life, and I know better now to say, I don't know. I didn't know that I was going to have a studio 2 months ago, and now I do. So I don't know exactly where all it's going to go. What I do know is I think it's going to grow a lot because it's going really fast, and it's something I'm so passionate about that, and other women and other people involved really love it too. So I think it just shows that there's a need for this. So part of my like prediction for why I think it will do really well isn't just because I think, oh, it's mine, so it'll do well. It's more, I think this is filling a gap in our world. Um, that goes well into this. What is your mission? What do you want to do? I think something that it's my Instagram bio, I'm always talking to people about, is I always say to follow your dreams. And that is something that is much easier said than done. And something I'm very passionate about is actually showing people how to do that. What does that actually look like? And a lot of that comes down to stuff that's not super fun and glamorous. It's usually in your habits and having good ones and healthy ones. And I don't just mean like physical health, but if your dream is to, have some sort of career, often to make that happen, that involves, well, what are you doing day to day to take small steps towards that? And how do we help someone who has this big dream or idea figure out a way to, once a day, they're going to spend 10 minutes doing something that gets them closer to that? Or they're going to reach out to a new person every week that's in a similar career field and learn about their story so they could start to get more comfortable with what it might look like for them. So I'm very big on like SMART goals and habit creation and like working with people to help them do that. So I kind of see for me like I'm very much building in public, and I do that on purpose because I want people to see that it takes a lot of repetitions, it takes a lot of trying things and failing. It takes doing a million different things and people being like, what even is Pink and Powerful? What are you talking about? I've never heard of such a thing. What she's doing, 8 billion things. It's like, that's okay. That's what it looks like to build. You don't have a path from A to Z because it's a new thing. Even if you're doing something that is a more like traditional business that does exist, you still can't copy a blueprint because everyone's is different. So I think a big part of my mission is showing people that it's possible and being very vulnerable on my own journey to help other people see that it's not some clear cut thing. And also that you can go from being like, I was such a perfectionist planner. I was not the type of person that would have quit their job and done something like this. And so it's possible to be someone who thought your life needed to be this perfect, picture perfect thing. You follow all the rules and be like, you know what? You don't have to stay that way forever if you don't want to. What do you hope women feel when they're at your studio, and how do you want to impact your community? I'd say the biggest word I want people to feel is comfortable and included. And I have people say a lot to me that this is the only fitness space where they feel that way, which really makes me sad that it has to be like that. And that's something that, again, has been very intentional, but at the same time, very natural to me. I am someone that's used to, maybe not always in fitness spaces because I'm very comfortable with fitness. So even if someone was judging me, I don't think I'd notice or care because I'm kind of in my own world. Like, it's what I love so much. But I am very used to the feeling of being not necessarily feeling welcomed at a place. I experience that a lot in the corporate world. And I think when we think about this, people often want to imagine like a high school bully scene from like a Disney movie. Like, oh, people pointing and laughing and saying, you loser, get out of here. It's usually not like that. It's usually subtle comments, it's microaggressions, or it's people just literally just not including you. Maybe they're not excluding you. Maybe they're all joking around about something though that they're just not going to loop you in on. Or little comments that I would get about the way I eat and the things I'm interested in. And they're all supposed to be jokes and you're supposed to take the joke. But it's like, okay, after a while, it's not really funny anymore. And because I know how that feels, I'm very passionate about making sure people not only don't feel that way, but they feel the opposite. Because I also know how good it feels when people do make you feel included. And I've also experienced that. I've had people who, they're like, oh, you're new to New York, or you're new to this job, or you're new to this fitness studio. Let me show you the ropes. Like, welcome. Where are you from? What do you like to do? And that is such a nice feeling. And I have women all the time tell me that maybe they're early on in their fitness journey and they don't feel welcome in a lot of spaces because they don't look the same way as other people. And it's like, it just doesn't matter in mine. And it also doesn't matter if you know exactly what you're doing. I always provide a lot of modifications in my workouts. The environment as well is just very chill. Like, there's a couch that's pink with juicy couture blankets on it in the corner. And like, we have affirmation cards and like positive like stickers that say like, you go girl on them. So I think the environment itself is really conducive to that. And in terms of the community as a whole, I think when you have a lot of people together in a space like that, and especially consistently, because hopefully for something like a workout studio, you're going again and again, you start to see the same people. And so that, again, really lends itself to truly a community where people can, like this morning I had a class where, these were women that didn't know each other before. And now they do, and they all want to come back to the same time next Friday, and then it's going to feel like, we're all friends hanging out. And like last night at one of my classes, we were all together at a different class recently. So it doesn't even feel like you're going to a studio. It's just like, oh, these are my friends. And so that's what I want for people, because that's what I felt was really missing for me when I left college and got into like the real world. It was a feeling of community. And I think feeling included in a space and then encouraging other people to kind of do that same thing for each other can really help create that. What is the biggest lesson life is teaching you right now? I feel like I'm learning a lot of lessons. The biggest one, I think a big theme for me has been, now that I am actually feeling like I'm seeing a lot of success, and success, can be defined in so many ways. But I feel like for a long time it was a lot of things I was trying weren't working, and I actually got pretty comfortable with that, which is great. You have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to say, this didn't work, okay, try this other thing. And I'm glad that I've learned that. But now I think I'm stepping into a little bit of a different chapter where I'm realizing that there's never going to be a point where I can say like, okay, I've reached the end goal. Now I'm allowed to rest. Now I'm allowed to enjoy my life. Now I'm allowed to have fun. Now I'm allowed to do whatever. And I've realized pretty quickly I was doing that a little bit, where I was basically never taking time to just enjoy where I'm at, because it's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's weird because when you are seeing some success in certain ways, it's actually even harder to notice you're doing that, because you're like, well, I don't know, I'm doing well, so of course I'm going to want to keep on doing. But just for right now, I think life is teaching me that I need to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process and enjoy like every single class that I get to teach, like literally saying to myself, this is my dream. Like, I do not want to wake up ever and be feeling like, oh, I have to go do this. Like, no, I get to go do this. And it's forcing myself to just, yes, like, I do have to build, I have to grow, I have to expand, but I can also enjoy where I'm at. And so that's a balance I'm probably going to be trying to find the rest of my life, but especially right now. How has it felt to be seen in the hot seat today? Any big takeaways or final thoughts? Well, I said this at the beginning. I love talking about big and powerful, my mission, my vision. So for me, this has felt amazing, because I wish that I could talk about this with people all day, every day, and I think it's so fun. And I believe that when you have people who share their story in their voice, then it encourages and inspires other people to do the same. And I didn't used to be someone that was as comfortable talking about what I do and what I want and what I care about. It took a lot of time for me to feel super comfortable and like enjoy doing things like this. So I also enjoy that aspect of it, again, as sort of evidence that when you see other people sharing their story, you never know who might see that and be like, oh, maybe I can do something like that. Maybe I can share more about myself. So for me, it's sort of this interesting process of like, one, I actually do enjoy it. I enjoy being on camera. I enjoy talking about what I'm doing. I love interviews. Like, I loved interviewing in college. It was so weird, but that was one of my favorite parts of like being a business student. And I think, again, it wasn't always like that. And so I hope, for a big takeaway for me today is sort of reflecting on that. Like, it's kind of hitting me that like I used to be very shy and like terrified of talking about all the things I love. So it's a really cool full circle moment to be like, this was something for me that was like, when you reached out, I was like, oh, of course I'm going to do that. That sounds so fun. Like, that was the words. I was like, that'll be a fun experience. And it has been. Oh, the other thing is I was looking for a while to find a community in Pittsburgh of creatives, entrepreneurs, and was like, I just don't know if there is one. That, at least I'm sure there's similar things happening, but I feel like this is the exact thing I was looking for. So thank you, because that's something that first I thought, well, maybe I can try and figure that out, but I'm doing this whole other thing. And so this is exactly the kind of thing I think we need more of. So thank you so much for what you're doing.